Welcome to the Colbycast, episode 315. Thank you for joining us. Today we are joined by Rebecca Dougherty. For many years, Rebecca put her master's degrees in theology and education to work in teaching high school theology. But these days, she's putting her gifts to work homeschooling her own children and providing insight and knowledge via her podcast. Additionally, she and her brother, Father Gregory Pine, are set to release a series of podcasts through Ascension Press's Catholic Classics covering Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection's The Practice of Presence of God. We're able to get some insights into homeschooling from Rebecca, but also get a preview about the writings of this 17th century monk and the wisdom it contains. We hope that you'll enjoy the show.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie, Colby homeschooling mom of 4 lads and lasses, liturgical musician, popcorn, and podcast fanatic.
And this is Stephen, homeschooling father of 5 and director of development for Colby Academy.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Well, it's kind of been a whirlwind of times. We're right at the end of our Colby year here. So graduation or commencement ceremony down in Atlanta was last week. And so there was travel and my daughter just graduated. So lots of excitement. And it's like, where's the time gone? Boy, what week is it? What month is it even? I'm not sure.
Congratulations to you all on that.
Yeah.
It's a very big week. And I'm a music director at my parish, and we had confirmation this weekend. So it was pretty nifty to have confirmation the weekend of Pentecost. So Bishop was noting that for everybody. So very glad to have gotten to celebrate that and be a part of that. It's our great treat today to have Rebecca Dougherty here to discuss the concept of cultivating a continuing conversation with God as laid out in the book, The Practice of the Presence of God, written by a 17th century Carmelite named Brother Lawrence. As listeners may already be aware, Rebecca is one of the guides taking us through the book for season 5 of Ascension's podcast Catholic Classics. She's also, among many other things, a homeschooling mom and an experienced high school theology teacher. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the Colbycast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm really excited to talk to you. So I'm going to try to temper that so it just doesn't run away with me, because that just takes us way off the rails. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity to get to visit with you. The attributes I mentioned are but a few of yours. So would you help us get to know you a little better by telling us about yourself and your background and those sorts of things?
Very good. Well, thanks again for having me. I'm happy to visit with you both as well, to be here on the podcast. So I'm a homeschooling mom of 5. And we're very new to the homeschooling game. So we just started last year. So my kids range, the oldest is about to turn 10 and the youngest is 1. And the 1-year-old's accolade is he was blessed. He received a papal blessing from Pope Leo.
Aww.
We went to, I'm a huge St. Pier Giorgio Frassati fan. And so when Pope Francis, God rest his soul, announced that he would be canonizing first Carlo Acutis in April and then Pier Giorgio in August, I came to my husband. I was like, ah! We were about to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, and we had honeymooned in Rome, and we had attended the Sposi Novelli, where you show up, at the Wednesday people audience in your wedding gown and tux, and you're scooted into this, this little section, and then God willing, receive the papal blessing. So I turned to my husband and I said, I don't know, it just feels poetic. It's our 10-year anniversary. We honeymooned in Rome. My favorite saint is being canonized. What do you think about making a transatlantic flight with 5 children? He was like, great. So then Pope Francis passed away, and Pope Leo was made Pope. And I imagine there are a number of things on one's plate when one becomes Pope. And so I think Pope Francis died maybe the week that Carlo Acutis was supposed to be canonized. And so many who were going to attend the canonization ended up attending his funeral, which was very beautiful. But we were holding our breath over here. We're like, okay, we still have 4 months. Maybe all the pieces will fall into place. We'll still be able to go. Pope Leo then announces that he is going to move the date. And when Pope Francis initially announced the canonization, I started praying through the intercession of Pier Giorgio, Carlo Acutis, and then my mom had passed away about 4 years prior. And she was just this vivacious, adventurous lady. So had she heard, 5 small children, transatlantic flight, heat of the summer, Rome, she would have been like, yeah, great. Yeah. So I started praying through her intercession as well. So Pope Leo announces the new date. I call United Airlines with a sob story like, who knew Pope Francis was going to die? Can we please change our 7 flights? The woman was as kind as can be. She said, okay, great. Yep, we have the new dates here. And tickets are half price, so you get a travel credit, so you can, pick another place to fly. And then all of a sudden, when the pieces started falling into place, I realized that the new canonization date where Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio would be canonized was the anniversary of my mom's death. And so it was just like, oh, this moment where, as Brother Lawrence talks about in the practice of the presence of God, God is provident and present to us always, and he's already accounting for things we cannot even think to worry about, and then generously, outdoing himself with just, abundance and love. So that was a long introduction to a very little part of my life, which is my 5 beautiful children, our connection to Pope Leo, who I think it's a nod to Ascension Press. They actually started this project before Pope Leo announced that the practice, the presence of God, was one of his spiritual favorites, or a spiritual classic, that it was his favorite and formative. So when he announced that, I texted, some of the Ascension crew. I was like, ooh, you guys are like really in touch with the Holy Spirit here.
That, yeah.
Because they'd already set the project in motion. So that's my family. We started homeschooling. So a couple of my kids actually started school. And then for a couple different reasons, I considered homeschooling in the past, but then our oldest is so extroverted. We thought like, oh, maybe she'll enjoy school. And so then a couple years in, she actually asked to be homeschooled. We started homeschooling. And so this is our second year. So first year, like my first year of teaching high school students. So I taught high school theology and British and American literature in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia for 12 years before getting married and having children and now being home with them full time. When we started homeschooling last year, my aunt, who's a veteran teacher, said, just remember, this is like your first year of teaching again. I was like, right, that's why it feels, like we're trying to figure it out and feels a little clunky. But we've kind of hit our stride hit more of a stride this second year, and it's been really, really enjoyable. So here we are, homeschooling, and yeah.
Great.
That piece of advice is just golden for families who are just starting out. Just to remember, you get to get used to it. Like you don't have to have it all figured out from the get-go. And just for everyone starting out, I love that, whatever permission that is, whoever needs that. Like this is just give yourself some time to get settled. Yeah.
And I think we're often the homeschooling parents, we're our own worst critics.
Yeah.
So I have so many people say like, God bless you for homeschooling. I'm like, first of all, God bless the people who have been homeschooling for years, because I am standing on the shoulders of giants, and there's so much content out there, which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think we can tend to be most critical of ourselves.
Absolutely. Very, very, very true. Do you have any other so far standout memories of the homeschooling time, or happy or sad or cautionary tales?
So as I say, we're our own worst critics. My eldest last year, maybe a month into homeschooling, she presented me with a paper, and on the paper she had written a scale of 0 to 10. And I think she even had like the smiley face and sad face. It looks like when you go into public restrooms and you can hit like a sad red face or a happy green face, or like, how was your experience? And so she gave me a 7 out of 10. I was like, wow. So I'm texting some of my fellow homeschooling mom friends, and they were like, that's great. Like, you don't want to be the 10 out of 10 straight out of the gate. Like, the teacher that everyone likes, like, who knows about that teacher? She's like, you got room to grow. Maybe you could put a suggestion box, on your dining room table for areas of improvement. So that was humbling. So again, the first year was a little up and down. I chose, I kind of polled friends, what curriculum do you use? What kind of style or things do you do? And I chose a curriculum which was very like open and go. You tick the box after you complete history and Latin and math. And so at the beginning, I liked that idea that it would be very organized. You just tick the box and move on. But then as we encountered, especially the liturgical seasons, on All Saints' Day, I wanted to kind of riff and do something different for religion. Or when we were in Advent or Lent, do something different. And then I started to feel like behind. And so now this year we've kind of, we're taking a little bit of an eclectic approach. And it's really, yeah, it's really enjoyable. And we're kind of using what fits each child. And
Yeah.
that's enjoyable for me. Which when I look back, I think it was the same way when I was teaching high school, where, you arrive at school, the principal or the department chair gives you the curriculum and says like, meet these benchmarks by these dates. And then as I got more comfortable, I started bringing in, you know, writings of C.S. Lewis and, little like pamphlets or apologetics or things that I enjoyed teaching. And so I think then that when you enjoy teaching something, your enthusiasm is communicated to your students, or in this case, your kids.
Very true.
And I mean, I'm sure you definitely experienced that as a high school teacher, seeing all the different learning styles and things. But you've had this whole group of people that has to get through the same things. But yeah, I think with my five, there are two that are pretty similar in their learning styles, but that's it. I mean, only 2 out of 5 are pretty close. That's everybody else is on their own path, unique way of learning and engaging. So.
And that's like one of the many joys of homeschooling. I remember being in the classroom. I had about 35 students, like 5 sections of 35 students. And in a 45-minute period, you see the students who get it within the first 7 minutes, and then they're bored for the remaining 38. And then, the majority are working their way through. And then you see the kids at the end who are still like, ah, and you just want to give them more time, but you can't because you got to scoot them out and scoot in the next class. So it's such a joy in homeschooling to be able to pause and take the time, or move along because, they already get it, or we've gotten very into bird watching actually. So we, incorporate that into our science lessons, and we're able to sit at the kitchen table and observe just in this like organic way with life, where it's not like now's time for science.
Yeah.
It's really, it's really a gift.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Homeschooling is so much fun. So now that I've got, my 22 to 12 or whatever, we're still in the journey, but it's been a lovely journey with like all of my children. There's just these, I know, it's just this depth of relationship too. In addition to all they're smart, good, they're kids they're people that I really admire. But just being able to sit down at the table after dinner and have these long conversations about who knows what. And it's something that I think I kind of missed when I was a public school kid and so busy with at school all day, extracurriculars, and then it's come home, do your homework, and hi mom, hi dad, hope everything's going well. Thanks for the food.
Yeah. Love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of there's so many gifts and joys to homeschooling, but having that time, just before we started homeschooling a couple years ago, my brother, Father Gregory, had given my one son, Declan, who's his godson, the Wing Feather Saga series. And maybe he had recommended, or maybe just intuitively, I wanted to read it out loud as a family. And so you wake up, you brush teeth, you eat breakfast, you get on the bus, they're gone most of the day. They come home and it's, as you just said, it's even, like homework and activities. And it's like, okay, we have 3 minutes to read part of a chapter. Yeah. Whereas now, especially with the weather being nice, we'll go sit outside. And if we want to read 1 chapter or 5 chapters, we can. And it's really, really delightful.
In a certain sense, we get to experience more of the whole range of a person in our family, know each other better in all our strengths and weaknesses, for better or worse, in the day in, day out that way. Yeah. Well, beautiful. Well, we could have a whole separate conversation about the ins and outs of how it's going for your homeschool. So know that we'll leave you with a standing invitation for that to come back and talk about that. But the practice of the presence of God, would you give us a bit of a description of the book for folks who haven't yet encountered it?
Yes. So Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection was a Discalced Carmelite from the 17th century. He lived most of the 17th century. You'll see if you get the Ascension version has some really great introductions and commentary. He came from a good family, and he initially set out to be in the military, but he providentially was wounded, returned to his home, rehabilitated for a bit, and then he actually entered the hermit life after living eremitical life for a bit, believed that living in community would actually be better. And so then he went on to live 50 years as a lay brother. So he didn't intend to be ordained a priest. He lived as a lay brother, mostly in the kitchen, cooking, and then also sandal making. And so, his life is a little bit reminiscent of people like, or saints like Solanus Casey, who answered the door, just a very, very humble, hidden life until, by the grace of God, this work, becomes available to the public and has sold over 1 million copies in the last few hundred years. So he struck up a relationship with a man by the name of Joseph de Beaufort, who was the vicar general of a prominent bishop at the time. And Joseph de Beaufort, heard of Brother Lawrence. Once he started conversing with him, realized like, whoa, there's something really good and holy going on here. And so what he does is he gathers together a series of conversations, letters, spiritual maxims written by Brother Lawrence, and then some biographical notes about the life of Brother Lawrence. And he compiles them into what's now known as the Practice of the Presence of God. And initially, so during his lifetime and shortly thereafter, this did not gain traction in the world because there was a controversy at the time called the Quietist controversy, where there was a group of Catholics who believed that we should be so detached from things, even from wanting to enjoy beatitude. And so it was later proclaimed a heresy. But his writings, one of the who was at Fenelon, kind of attached himself to Brother Lawrence's writing and said, see, it's like just the same. And so once that was kind of sorted out and the church said, no, it's actually quite different, then it became very popular. So one of the beautiful things about this book is that through his letters and conversations, his letters especially, he writes to both men and women, both lay and religious. He writes to a priest in there. So it really is, the writings are literally geared towards all walks of life. And so I think this podcast is great because you get the perspective, for those who would like to follow along with the Ascension Catholic Classics podcast, you get the perspective of a Catholic priest, a Dominican, and then a Catholic wife and mom. And the writings really very simply speak to the day-to-day circumstances. And what Brother Lawrence offers us is, and encourages us to do, is simply practice the presence of God, God who is always present to us. We don't need to add one more devotion or spiritual to do. We simply open ourselves up to God who is already open to us. So while we're washing the dishes, folding the laundry, preparing our lessons, preparing a homily, a retreat, filing our expense reports, whatever it is, God is there and he loves us. And so he wants us to turn to him because he is turned to us.
Was this the first time you had read the book when you embarked upon the project with your brother, Father Gregory Pine? You've made reference to him. If folks are wondering, is that who that is? Yes, that's who that is. So had you read it before this came about?
So I hadn't. I had heard his name, and in my mind, he was kind of linked up with like a Jacques Philippe or who's Abandonment to Divine Providence, kind of like that.
Yes,
those kind of classics. But I hadn't read it, and so I ordered a copy, from Amazon, and read it, and then have reread it a couple times in preparation for the podcast. And I know you had the translator.
Yeah.
And I could see when I read his translation for Ascension, there was, I don't know all the ins and outs of translation, but there was a decided difference between, the one, I don't know who translated the one I got on Amazon, but his had just like a real warmth to it, which in his word selection and just overall translation, which I think was so beautiful and appropriate in that Brother Lawrence is basically offering us this warm and cozy relationship with the Lord, who is here with each of us everywhere and always.
Yeah. I noticed a difference in tone from the two versions, the one I started off reading and then the Ascension edition. It's interesting on the translation front of it.
Yeah. Well, I listened to your Colby Cast episode with Dr. Miner, and he talked in one point about how, as AI comes more and more on the scene, um, I think he said it actually does a really good job, but I imagine just to get the overall, like you said, the overall tone, um, and an integrated translation, it's quite good to have the human translator in there. And so I saw that shine through, in his translation for Ascension. It comes across as a very, yeah, cohesive, integrated whole.
Hmm. Yeah.
Great.
So backstage is one of my favorite places to be. So I'm curious about some of the behind the scenes sort of things that you can share with us of the recording. Like how do you two approach this like collaboratively, or how you came in like the with the translation being finished for you to use that to draw from. Any of that behind the scenes stuff that you are game to tell us about. I'm here for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, great. So I became a part of this project because of, as you mentioned, Father Gregory Pine, who's known for his Godsplaining with the other Dominican Friars Godsplaining podcast. He is on the Matt Fradd's Pints with Aquinas often, and then he actually was just watching this morning. He talked about the Pope's encyclical on artificial intelligence on Ascension's channel. So he actually, I think they started the Godsplaining podcast before COVID hit. And so they were kind of already in the space and rocking and rolling by the time a lot of the world started podcasting more. So he has done a couple seasons of Catholic Classics. This is the fifth season of Catholic Classics for Ascension. So they have gone through Intro to the Devout Life, the Confessions of St. Augustine, St. Teresa's Story of a Soul. I believe there was a collection on, it was like a collection of saints, and I'm not actually sure who the saints were. And then this is the fifth season, Brother Lawrence of the Resurrections, Practice the Presence of God. So Ascension approached Father Gregory, and then asked them, he was like, hey, could I bring my sister along? Not just for fun, but she actually has a theological background and has podcasted before. So it was really fun. So we each read the work on our own, took our own notes, and then had a couple calls where we, kind of outlined how we were going to split it up, how we were going to be in conversation with each other on the podcast. And we are two of four adult Pine children, and I refer to him as my big little brother. So I'm 6 years his senior, but I'm 5'7", he's 6'4",
Oh, wow.
and he's just always been an excellent young man. And so I look up to him in a lot of ways. And so it was really fun preparing for the project. And then, he's in Washington, D.C. I'm in the Philadelphia area, and Ascension is located about an hour from where I live. So we drove out there and recorded the 20 episodes together. So the format of the episode is we read, a portion of the Practice the Presence of God in maybe 7 or 8 minutes, and then we do some commentary for about 10 minutes. And so this will roll out June 8th. Ascension will roll it out, and I think each day they'll roll out a new episode. And so for listeners, readers who would like to follow along, there's a reading plan on Ascension's website. So you can read on your own. You can listen to us read, and then listen to some commentary. So the behind the scenes while we were recording. So we're two of four Pine children, and our parents say that we were kind of cut from the same cloth. So we enjoy similar things and similar jokes, and so we recorded. We recorded the first episode. We did over the course of 2 days. We did the 20 episodes. So after we recorded the first one,
Oh.
the director of the podcast, and it's audio and video. She's this lovely, lovely, sweet woman, very good at her job. And so Father Gregory turned to her. He said, "Okay, now that we've recorded one, what should we do more of, less of, moving forward?" And she goes, "Um."
Uh-oh.
You could just feel like there was something there, but she didn't want to offend. She goes, little less banter, maybe more on the book. So we just got into sibling mode with like the inside jokes and the anecdotes and the stories. She was like, how about a little bit more about Brother Lawrence? So the first episode might be a little bantery, and then more booky, the remaining 19 episodes. So that was fun. So it was fun.
I enjoy that. I enjoyed the preview episode at the time of this recording. That is what I've listened to the preview episode, that sort of the introductory one so far, and I love the banter. So there's that for whatever that's worth. You can let anyone know that I enjoy the banter.
Let Ascension know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, precisely. And I really admire the relationship you all have, and I've heard you discuss doing things with your adult siblings. You all go on retreats together, and it sounds like you all have a beautiful relationship, and I admire that and hope for that for my own 4 kids. And yeah, so I think that's neat to hear about. And wow, that's a long haul to record 20 episodes in that short amount of time. Wow.
Yeah, it was, and it took us a little while to find our cadence, but then it was nice. I think it was the reason we did that, practically speaking. Father Gregory, we joke that we say he's a pro bono hustler. So he's just like always like podcasting, writing articles, and he teaches at the Dominican House of Studies, and so he's a man on the move, doing a lot of things. And then because I'm home full time with the children, my husband very graciously took PTO so he could be home with the kids, so I could go podcast. So it was practically it was helpful, for both of us to record that way. And then it was also nice because we got in the groove, and then rather than taking a break, coming back the next day or the next week, it was like, all right,
yeah,
we could just go. One more behind the scenes highlight, as you talk about the closeness of the family, and you hope for that for your own children, which I hope for that for my children as well. One thing that was beautiful for me personally is we're each so grateful for the beauty of our parents. So, I say that we hit the parent jackpot. They are my father's, living, and my mom's passed away. Each day I thank the Lord. I say, Lord, thank you for the gift of my life and the gift of my faith. Please bless and anoint Mom and Dad for giving both to me so generously and so efficaciously. And may I do the same for my own children. So they were just, just really integrity filled, honest, striving. Father Gregory said we were on another interview together, and he said, actually, you know what? I think he talks about it in his vocation video on the Ascension YouTube channel. He said, you learn a lot about a person by sneaking up on him or her. And he said, whenever you snuck up on my dad growing up, like, he'd always be praying.
Oh,
and he's still the same way. He's just a very faithful, humble man. And our mom, again, just very, very humble. And if they didn't know an answer to our question about the faith or anything in life, they would say, I don't know, but let's find out, because if it's the truth is somewhere. And so when Father Gregory and I recorded this podcast, we would kind of tell Mom and Dad anecdotes, which just stoked the gratitude even more.
Oh, what a gift. Wow. Yeah. Beautiful. And in the homeschooling life, we get to see all the many facets of each other in our day in, day out. So all the more, sometimes it feels like a lot of, I speaking personally, feel a lot of responsibility to do that well, and to recognizing that I'm in my kids' presence a lot. So the model I am leaving for them, I hope that one day it will, a memory will form similar to how you're describing your own parents. That's beautiful. So yeah.
It's all instructive. One of our children, maybe they're all sensitive to some degree, but one, when reprimanded or corrected, takes it very to heart. And so I've realized, like, oh, like, my words really leave an impact. And so I, even this morning, I was like, like, how did you not think through that timeline?
Yeah.
And then I came back, an hour later. I was like, I'm so sorry. It actually wasn't even worth me saying that. And I'm sorry for hurting your feelings. You're doing a great job. And so I think it's all instructive. We mess up and we apologize. And then they learn to do that in their own relationships. And
it seems like that is, because that's going to happen. So to be able to repair it and come back from that, that's the main lesson we want to. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's like the homeschooling parent being their own worst critic, right? I mean, so we have to kind of give ourselves a little bit of grace, or accept that grace from our Lord, because, as you're talking, like, boy, as a parent, I have learned so much from my children and from interacting with them and by being challenged with them by them at times, for things like, oh yeah, I didn't even realize I had this blind spot here that I need to take care of. And without that, openness to, without that relationship where they can actually say that, I wouldn't be the person. I've still got a long ways to go, but I mean, they're still growing up. I've got time, but yeah, so much development for myself as a parent. I think back and like, ooh, I'm glad I didn't really mess them up, but I think we've all kind of grown together throughout this process. So it's been
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think actually that's a great segue into another point where Brother Lawrence is helpful, maybe specifically to homeschooling parents. He talks about so if, at first in his religious life he was so scared, terrified for his own salvation, basically wondering about his own salvation. By the grace of God, he was able to let that go to the Lord, and then he says that for, again, about 50 years, he lived in the presence of God in such a way that he truly believed, felt, lived, God, this is your work. I'm doing it. And then it's up to you if it's successful, not successful. And there's this one line where he talks about he was so nervous. He had to go out and purchase wine for the monastery. He was so nervous that he would mess it up. And he entrusts it to God. He comes back and says something along the lines of like, oh, I actually did a pretty good job too. And so there's this real, abandonment to divine providence, trust in God. I think we could apply that to our lives as homeschooling parents in that God is present to our children. He loves them even more than we do, which is hard to believe. And so he's working in us and through us, and we'll, God willing, make up for the deficiencies and help see them along their own path as well.
Yep.
So I was getting ready for our discussion today or for our meeting. I was this idea of kind of being in the present. I'm taking some clinical mental health courses just for fun on the side, but there's today they talk about mindfulness. They use that term and how really to be at your best in the moment, you need to be present in the moment. But I was thinking in our faith, it's even really to me so much more beautiful than that, because the past is in the past. Focusing on what you've done wrong or what happened, or thinking about the present, I'm going to mess this up, I'm going to get the wrong wine or whatever. That's not in existence yet. What we have in being, what existence is, the now.
Yeah.
And so God is being. So that's the time that you can really thrive, but also be with God in that moment, in whatever. It seems like that goes along. That's probably what he's at different points, but it just struck me like, wow, we are being when we're really there with God in the moment with whatever we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. What I found when I used to teach high school students, a lot of them had been in Catholic education since they were little. And I had, over the course of my teaching, I taught 9th through 12th grade, but I taught mostly sophomores. And when we would have discussions, a lot of them knew kind of like the pat Catholic definitions or answers, why were we created? To know God, love God, serve him, supposed to be with him in this life and the next. But then when I would press a little deeper, it led to these great discussions like, right, but why did God create you? And why is he present to you? And I taught with this great priest of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, Father Matt Guckin. He would ask the kids, why do you think God created you? And after they gave all those answers, he would say, God created you because he thought you might like it. He thought you might enjoy this thing called life. And he's so good. And he actually loves you. Like he really actually loves you and wants to be present to you, wants you to be present to him, because we're made for that. And that makes us happy. Yeah. Not just one day in heaven, but even now. That present moment is, so powerful. And I think to your point, Stephen, I think, the therapeutic world has maybe discovered this truth that the
Yeah.
church has offered for so long that yeah, it's not easy to do always, but it's very simple and straightforward. That yeah, the things that we worry about in the future might never actually happen.
Yeah.
And the things we haven't even thought to worry about, God's already providing for them.
I picked up on a similar along those same lines, sort of the thoughts, like he'll speak to when your thoughts are veering off into, you find yourself thinking something else, like just recollecting, coming back.
Yeah, so the all of these again, when I used to teach high school students, they would say, "Well, like, is religion right or is science right?" I
Yeah.
would say, "There's a truth, and if it's true, science points to it, religion points to it. The therapists and counselors point to it." So yeah, so we're so blessed to have all these tools maybe at our fingertips. Again, one of my children who's again, maybe they're all sensitive, but who's sensitive about and maybe a little scrupulous, like should I have done this or should I have not have done this? Or like I have this image in my mind that I can't quite get out of. And so I tell her like what I do, I struggle with that as well. I just imagine like place it at the foot of the cross and trust it to Jesus. Jesus, take this from me, especially if this is not of you, just take it from me, hold me in your arms. And so we're very blessed to have, through our faith and through these different practices from the therapy world, yeah, tools for ourselves and to help our children navigate the many things of life.
Well, amazing, considering when Brother Lawrence lived, 17th century, him speaking to these things, and now, much later, the therapeutic world kind of taking them up as well. So that kind of draws one sort of parallel between his lifetime and present day. And I think several others have become apparent as we've been talking. Are there specific ones you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, so I think that in the Book of Wisdom in the Old Testament, there's a verse that says, "There's nothing new under the sun." So it's like human beings, we're imperfect, sinful human beings living in a fallen world. And so even though our struggles today, 300 years after Brother Lawrence, might be a little more like tech savvy or, relate to particulars that were not a part of his life, I think it's the same, very similar sentiments. Like, I'm entrusted with this job. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want my fellow monks to laugh at me.
Yeah.
He also suffered poor health. And so, that was a part of like factored into his spirituality, his day to day, and trusting that to the Lord. As tech savvy and medically advanced as we are today, lots of people struggle with illness and so, yeah, even though he's a lay brother living in a monastery in France 300 years ago, his experience, we might look on that, or maybe I'll just speak for myself as a homeschooling mom of 5. I might look on that and think like, oh, that would be great to just be in the kitchen scrubbing dishes with no one asking questions. He had very real struggles and doubts and fears that he learned to entrust to the Lord. And one of the things I love about him and this work is that he talks about basically living peacefully and joyfully, contentedly in this presence for once he started to hone it for many decades. And it's just a reminder that, there will be times in our life where it feels like it's a dark night of the soul, or we're called to, live a time of suffering. But it might not always be that way. And as Father Gregory says, and I think it's one of the introductions to one of the 4 parts, he talks about how delights are meant to be delightful. So God, who didn't have to create us, does, because he is good, and he thought we might enjoy that goodness, that beatitude as well. And so what a gift that, again, we don't have to like struggle through this life and then one day be happy in heaven. We get glimpses and maybe, big swaths of beatitude in this life as well.
I guess that's living in the moment there again,
Yeah.
just because, yeah, appreciate those things while I was driving my mother to the airport yesterday. She was out visiting for a week, and we're kind of reflecting back and just how important as a family. It's like, well, you got to take advantage of all of this time that we have together, because
Yeah.
we'll be together, we all hope, in heaven, but
Yes.
there's going to be, yeah, to kind of just like all this good stuff that we do have. Yes, there's sufferings. Yes, there's challenges, but there's also a lot of good stuff that we should just rejoice with the Lord. Often
Yes.
give that back to him too, when that happens.
Yeah, so true. So true. And again, I think another joy and gift of homeschooling that we have a little more time to just rest in those moments and enjoy those moments. Um, a struggle for me as a homeschooling parent is, okay, what would make this homeschooling day better is if every countertop was clean, all the dishes were in the dishwasher, laundry was done, folded, and put away. And then we did our read aloud, like in the sunny, clean home. And sometimes that happens, but for the most part, it doesn't. I just finished a novena where my intention was basically, Jesus, there are always to-do lists, and I think there will always be to-do lists. So please help me integrate that to-do list in my life in such a way that I can be present to the moment, receive each moment as a gift and all the gifts that God has through each moment. And so, yeah, I think that's a struggle, but then a gift if by the grace of God we can work it out with the Lord to be present to those moments as we homeschool. Even though there's the to-do list, things are undone. We can sit in the sunny front lawn and read aloud a couple chapters of the Wingfeather Saga. Yeah.
Household chores are always like that. It's like, well, they will still be there today, tonight, tomorrow, the next day. We have like 4 dogs in our house here, so it's like sweeping the floors is something like, yeah, you can do it now, but it's going to need to be done again in 3 hours anyway. So, so really, what's the point?
I know. I had this one day where I just like rocked and rolled on to-do list items. If I had 10 items, I crossed off 7. I was like, this is incredible. And then the next day I added 7 more. And then the next day, like 7. I'm like, okay, so it will always be a thing. So how do we be present in the midst of like the running to-do list in the back of the mind?
Yeah, that's all very relatable. Okay, what about sticking points or surprises? I think that you have noticed yourself going through this book, or that you have heard from other folks as they've gone through it.
Yeah. So two things really stick out. One is it's in I think it's in the first letter. Let's pull out our copy here. The first letter, Brother Lawrence, who's very calm and kind in his conversations and his letters, he's writing or he's speaking in this first conversation after talking about, you've come to me because you want to know how I carry out this practice and how you might carry it out as well. He gives some pointers, and then the first conversation ends with him saying, however, if you do not form this intention, then you should not come to see me.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah.
And if not, don't waste my time.
Yep.
And so it was kind of like a frater memento mori moment where it's like, okay, we've got a certain amount of time on this earth. And so maybe especially today where there's so much content, great content we could pull from. It's like we have to kind of decide, okay, now what am I going to do with it? And how is this forming my life? And there's only so much time, so much time to do the things on our to-do list. So he's basically saying, like, are you going to try it or not? And if not, don't waste my time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Brother Lawrence, here we go. Brother Lawrence, I would like to practice the presence of God. I'm here.
Yep.
I'm decisive. I'm up for it. So that was a little like, whew, okay.
Yeah.
But then also just a great reminder. Like we have, X amount of time. And so let's do it. Which he then goes on to talk about throughout the rest of the conversations and letters and spiritual maxims, saying, like, just start, and then by the grace of God, you'll get better at it. So we don't have to have this, like, I don't know, prefab, carry out these practices before we can practice the presence of God. He says, God is present. He's present to you everywhere and always. So just be present to him, just start. And then you'll get better at it. And the way he explains, because I think sometimes people will hear like, okay, great, I want to practice the presence of God. Like, what is it? He says in this third part where he entitled the spiritual maxims, he says it's the application of our mind to God or a recollection of God as present. A simple act, a clear and distinct knowledge of God. Some might call it a remembrance of God, attention to God, silent conversation with God, trust in God, the life and peace of the soul. So it's simply with our, we have an intellect and we have a will, just turning our inward gaze, outward gaze, to God. God, you're here. I love you. Thank you for loving me. Again, here I am washing the dishes, folding the laundry, preparing the lessons. Thanks for being with me. Thank you for these beautiful children you've entrusted to me. Please help me to be present to them as you are present to each of us. So I liked in reading through, I liked that concept of you don't have to be a spiritual master to do this. You just start, no matter who you are and where you are and what you're doing. God is present to you. Be present to him.
Yeah, beautiful.
I was just thinking that such a challenge, I think, for me and probably most people, is that falling into, oh yeah, I've got to get this right before I can actually do it. I have to be perfect before God's going to love me. I have to do these things before I can. And it's like, nah, that's not how it works, actually.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So true. Yeah. And then we could think of that in terms of our own children. If they were like, oh, I have to get it all right before I can present myself to you to be loved by you. And it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll snuggle you all the way to perfection. It's fine.
Yep.
One other thing that was very striking to me came again from one of Father Gregory's introductions to one of the parts, and then we unpacked it a little bit in the podcast, where he said, in today's world, we're often trapped in a conversation with ourselves about ourselves. And I think especially with social media and so much online activity, it's easy to, just think of like, how am I being perceived? How am I marketing myself? And then the age old, like, listing what people did to me and, what I wish I had said. And it's all of a sudden we're just in this conversation with ourselves about ourselves.
Yep.
And so in practicing the presence of God, again, by the grace of God, we break out of that and enter into conversation with God, who's already in conversation with us. And so I asked in one of the episodes where we were recording commentary, I asked Father Gregory, I said, so let's say you get in that, like, you're trapped in a conversation with yourself about yourself, asking for a friend.
Yeah.
How would one, break out of that? And you said, a la the simplicity of Brother Lawrence, he said, get some sleep, have a good meal, and chat with a good friend. Someone who can, you don't just talk to someone so they can break you out of your conversation with yourself, but we're made for conversation and communion with others, and not to be trapped, in a little conversation with ourselves. So I've taken that to prayer, and I've actually quoted that a number of times since we had that conversation, and yeah, it's been really fruitful for me.
Really good, because I know there are people out there who distinctly hear the voice of God when they're praying, that's something that happens for them, but doesn't happen for me at this point in my life a whole lot. But as you were saying that, but a friend, somebody you trust and can share with, that's a way for God to speak to you through them. So that's really wonderful. Wonderful advice.
Yeah.
I picked up on the concept of God trying to give us gifts, and this is probably a whole other direction that we don't really have time to get into, but just like I can draw a parallel, like when I am trying to give something to a loved one, like I have this beautiful gift to give to you, and it's up to that person to receive it and do with it what we hope they will, but or what they're going to do with it. And that's kind of I find myself thinking about that. God wanting to give us the beauty of his presence with us and our recognition of that. Like, I don't know, that's got my wheels kind of turning on that. So
Yeah, because I think like these little misunderstandings or little heresies kind of creep into Catholicism, Christianity, our spiritual lives, where because of the justice of God, God is just. So sometimes this little image creeps in that like God's watching, to then like smack down the error, or like he's out to get us, and he's not.
Right.
He again actually loves us and has so much to give, as you said, and it's up to us to be open to receive that.
I've been thinking about that at Mass for whatever reason a couple of weeks ago, where I think they're going over like some of the how sometimes the laws of the church or the guidelines how we're supposed to act and such are, can be burdensome to some people at times. And it's like, well, no, we shouldn't see them as that because we can't hurt God. We can't.
Yeah.
I mean, all we can do is hurt ourselves. So all of these things are there for us to, it's like you said, Bonnie, these are the gifts he's giving us to help us, you know, be more like him and to love him better and to, be more joyful and happy. And yeah, we can refuse all of those, but we're only hurting ourselves with those,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So true.
I found myself since embarking upon reading this book and finishing it, like even in just the short time since that's happened, because I just wrapped it up actually, finding myself thinking, okay, God, I want to find you here. Where are you in this moment? Whatever is happening right now, I know you're here. And there's a line about the silent and continuing conversation that I want to take part of. Like I realized I kind of dropped my end of the conversation. I want to pick it back up again.
Yeah.
And it's not he who has left. It's me. It's
Yeah.
here I'm back now. Okay, sorry.
It's like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so true.
I know that we have a time constraint. So is there anything that either the conversation moved on before you can finish what you wanted to say about that, or anything that we haven't gotten to yet that you wanted to?
So what you were just saying is making me think, oh, so God is present. Sometimes we leave the conversation. Um, so we pray the rosary each night with the kids, and they're just a couple of them are just starting to like develop their own little prayer lives, and so they'll ask like, well, what do you do when you pray, and like, what do you say? And so I like to get up early. I'll light a little candle for ambiance and make my cup of coffee, and basically just talk with God about what I'm in my head, what I'm thinking about, what I imagine the day will hold, what I need help with, and so I think sometimes we might get in the mode of, okay, I have to finish this devotion, this, yeah, kind of like checklisty. And if we're just talking with God about like, oh gosh, I have to schedule that, doctor's appointment today. And he already knows it and he's here for it. And, it's helpful. Like you said, Stephen, it's for us to kind of lay our hearts before God. Like God's good. He already knows it. But it's helpful to us to be in conversation. And so, yeah, maybe if any listeners are struggling with, their personal prayer life and helping their kids foster a prayer life, I think Brother Lawrence might say, just talk to him about what's going on in your head and heart, and then he will lead you. And there was this one morning a couple months ago where I was thinking of the things to be done, and I just felt overwhelmed. And part of it was I think I was still kind of postpartum, and so my body was tired, and so I just said to God, I said, you need laborers in the vineyard. I know there's always work to do, but I don't think you want us to feel overwhelmed. Like I don't think overwhelm is from you, and so please help me get out from under this overwhelm and just, yeah, carry out these tasks peacefully and joyfully. And maybe the next day, someone shared with me that prayer of Saint Therese, where she said, Jesus, simplify my life by helping me to know the person you want me to become and by becoming that person. So you don't want me to be everything, but you have entrusted you want me to be someone. And so please help me to embrace the things you have for me to embrace and then let go of the other things I might think are important, but are actually not. So I've just been praying that prayer each day, and I've found a lot of consolation in that. And I think that helps me be present to God, to others, to the day before me and the tasks at hand, and then let go of, right now, one of my to-do things is I like to make annual photo albums. And the last photo album I made was in 2020. So I'm about 5.5 years behind. And our youngest two are not in photo albums yet.
Yeah. Yep.
But then God willing, I'll get to it at some point. But I just think like, okay, Jesus is probably not like, finish the photo album today. All in good time.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, so in God willing, being present to him, he I think helps us, yeah, be attentive to what's important that day, and then maybe let go of the things that are unimportant.
Yeah.
That goes along with, I mean, today there's this idea that you give everything 100%. Well,
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah.
You would burn yourself out so quickly. So yeah, I love that prayer. Just focus on those things that
Yeah.
you can't give 100% to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard someone say, or maybe it's a common saying, um, you can have it all, just not all at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Given us several beautiful prayers. I'm incorporating them into my daily doings because they're beautiful to meditate upon and draw from. Yeah. All right. So how do folks find the book and the podcast and all that sorts of stuff so they can participate in this trip through this book and hopefully derive many fruits from it?
Yeah. So if you go to ascensionpress.com / Catholic Classics, there's a free reading plan, and then the book is available for purchase. And then the podcast will air starting June 8th on the Ascension app. It's actually the first Catholic Classics podcast that has audio and video. So that's available on the Ascension app. And then also Ascension created a Catholic Classics YouTube channel. So you could just search Ascension Catholic Classics on YouTube. Yeah, to watch and listen.
Okay. And in Colby High School, when students go through the sort of typical progression of high school, they spend a lot of time with St. Augustine in 10th grade and including the confession. So that season of Catholic Classics is very helpful for Colby students, Colby families, additional resource.
Wonderful.
Yep. Okay. So as I mentioned, you have your own podcast, Catholic Light. There's this Catholic Classics podcast. Are there other ways you like for listeners to connect with you, or are those the main ones?
Those are the main ones. I do have a Facebook under my name, Rebecca Dougherty, and then I have an Instagram handle, Catholic Light Podcast. And then actually, I'm Rebecca Dougherty on LinkedIn. My sister is active on LinkedIn, and she said, you should be on here. There's like not a whole lot of spiritual formation on LinkedIn, but I must confess I'm not very good at social media, so I don't post too often.
Very good. Okay. Well, we'll have some links in our show notes that can take folks to these various places we've been discussing. We'll also have a link to the Colbycast episode with Dr. Matthew Meinert about translation. We've visited with Dr. Daniel Keebler a couple of times, a Franciscan professor, about science and truth and faith and reason and everything. So we'll link those notes. Those came to mind as we were talking about that in that part of the conversation. So we'll send folks to our show notes. Rebecca, what a blessing and gift this has been to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for being here with us and all your work on this. And we'd love to have you back and visit with us again.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a joy chatting with you both. And thanks for having me on the show.
Subscribe to the Colbycast on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode. And let us know how we're doing by leaving a rating or a review. And as always, feel free to email us at podcast@colby.org.
Mary, our Mother, pray for us. St. Maximilian Kolbe, St. Ignatius of Loyola, holy saints and angels, pray for us. Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam.